like, it is so exciting to be out across the state. I've been at 3 or 4 events in the last 3 or 4 days where people have been getting signatures, and people are excited about this. Like, I knew that we were going to have a lot of support to get signatures, and I've done signature campaigns before. I didn't lead one, but I've went and got signatures for campaigns before. And, in the past, it was kind of pulling teeth. That you had to really explain what the problem was. You had to really kind of talk people in. More than half the people go, "Nah, I'm not interested in that. Move on." But when you start talking about public education and the LEARNS Act and all of the stuff, it seems like our governor and attorney general and Department of Education and our communication director, all the people that are working on the front, stumble every time they open their mouths. And it's bringing more attention to our cause than what we're doing, and people are ready to sign. They're looking for places to sign. So it's real excited that we're finally in that stage of this.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. I mean, even on social media as well. Any post about capes, you'll see in the comments, where can I sign? When can we sign? People are ready to get involved and put their signature on that petition.
It's fun. The people of Arkansas that are stepping up are new in a lot of places. Like, they're new to the political process. They're asking, how do I lead? How do I help lead us out of this mess? People are stepping up everywhere. And it makes me have a little more excitement toward what's going on. I can't imagine many places across the state where rights are under attack, where schools are under attack, libraries are under attack. And I know that that's going on in lots of places. But here in Arkansas, I see people from all over the country, Ohio, Florida, Oklahoma. I know that our governor is very, very visible through Fox. She's like their go-to person.
Right.
But I just wonder if people around the country realize the Trumpian style rule that we're under, where she is like refusing to talk to the media. She's having town halls that she announces an hour in advance, and only if you're with Mothers for Liberty or the Reform Alliance can you get an RSVP that's pre-chosen, and they pre-pick the questions that's going to be asked. I mean, it is literal gaslighting, brainwashing, Trumpian, take all our rights away, take our schools away, turn our prison systems into private corporate systems, turn our public schools into corporate private systems, close down our libraries, take our rights away. And they're doing it with a legislature that obviously doesn't have the talent or the expertise to do it right, because they had 144 bills that they put an illegal emergency clause on and failed to do that correctly. So now we're fighting them in the Supreme Court, which we lost yesterday. But all we lost was the Supreme Court basically said, we're not making a decision on this. We're going to push this back to the lower court and make them make a decision on it. They literally politically punted the ball yesterday, and that actually is good for us. That tells us that they know that we are right and they don't know what to do about it.
Right. So you and I have talked on Coffee with Democrats and just over the phone so much about the mess of this last session, but let's kind of back up a little bit and go and talk from the beginning. Let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
With the LEARNS Act, how that was rolled out, what it entails.
Okay.
Give us some information about that.
Sure. I'll try to lay the story out pretty quickly, and about half of us aren't from Arkansas here. So we had a governor that was elected last November, and she took office in January. From that time, she ran. The biggest issue, I think, in the state during the election was education, teacher pay, improving our schools. It was really pushed in the election, and she supposedly had this world-class changing education plan. And when General Session came in, or when the General Assembly came in session, they wouldn't tell us what was in their plan. They like kept everything secret. And the Republicans were meeting. The Republicans got to see it behind closed doors, but they literally released it to the public and to the Democrats to see this 145-page omnibus bill that covers like 29. It should have been 29 different bills, and they put it in one bill. And of course, there were things that everybody wants. Everybody wants higher pay for our teachers. I think just giving teachers in Arkansas $50,000 is a Band-Aid, because they didn't address the step raises for teachers. They didn't address tenure, seniority, experience, education. None of that was taken into consideration. Then they also added in things like freedom accounts or voucher programs where we'll transfer public funds to private schools. And then they tried to set the regulations to say the private schools have to abide by the same rules of the public schools. And that was overwhelmingly voted down by this legislature. They're saying, we're going to give you the money out of the public school, and you don't have to go by any of the rules of the public school. You don't have to have certified teachers. Your teachers don't have to have degrees. You don't have standards for what's taught. You get to make the curriculum, and the parents have no say on it. Yet that money is going to be taken from public tax dollars and given to these corporations to make carte blanche decision on how our children are educated. And all of that went through the General Assembly, and we had like less than 3 days to even absorb what was in this package, much less read it. And they passed it. Didn't listen to anything that any of the Democrats had to say. Citizens lined up, and they could have talked for a week. And then they were ugly to our students. They shut them down. It was just a terrible process. And they pushed this legislation down the throats of Arkansans. And we started having town hall meetings around the state to educate people what was in this package. Well, Dean McDonald and I had a conversation after our Jonesboro town hall, and they had just signed the bill into law, and they put a faulty emergency clause that put this 145-page law that we had not had time to even digest, and it immediately went into law. And there was no funding. They didn't have mechanisms to, it was a terrible piece of legislation. All they did was cut and pasted from Arizona's education bill, Georgia, South Carolina. They just went out there and got all these different pieces, and they put it together, and it's not cohesive. It's terrible. So we formed CAPES, or Citizens of Arkansas for Public Education and Students, to advocate for our public schools, our teachers, and our kids. And we have run a repeal on this where the citizens are going to veto the bill that they have put in. And in order to do that, we've got to get 55,422 signatures by July 31st. Well, they passed all these other laws that made it where it was impossible for the citizens to put their law on the ballot. And a little background on that, the Republican legislator tried to put it on our ballot for a ballot initiative 2 times in the last 3 years, and the citizens of Arkansas overwhelmingly voted it down. So the legislators just passed it on their own to amend our Constitution, and they don't even have the ability to do that. They can't do it. It's unconstitutional. And they said that we have to get signatures from 50 of the 75 counties with a minimum 3% of who voted in the last election, where our law before was 15 counties. And then they put a caveat in there that before we could get our signatures, we had to take the ballot to the Attorney General, and he had to approve the wording of the ballot. And he had 10 business days to do that. And so with weekends and stuff, it literally became 2 weeks every time we took him the ballot, and he could choose any reason to deny it and send it back to us, even though our clock had already started to collect signatures. And he did it. We had to go back to him 3 times. And it took us a month and a half. And finally, we had a bill that he couldn't deny. And he's out there playing politics against us. And, he's supposed to be the attorney of the people. So the whole thing is just completely wore out, and it's completely messed up. But we've got our ballot title. We've started printing. We're getting ballots across, or petitions across the state. And we have Juneteenth this weekend, and there's celebrations for this great event across the state of Arkansas. And we are going to have people with petitions at almost every event. And here going forward, start looking. You can go to www.saynotolearns.org, and we have an event page, and it'll tell you where you can go sign in your county. We're very organized. We have great volunteers. I cannot express how incredible our volunteers are, and how hard they're working, and how much they've stepped up, and the leaders that are out there. It's just wonderful. Kelly, I know that was long, but I think that kind of brings us up to speed with where we are now. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think the background is needed to see all that you guys have been through to get to this point. It wasn't easy.
Yeah, Dr. Jones, as soon as the Supreme Court made their decision, he sent me a text with a GIF, and it was out there, and a soldier fighting the night walkers, and they were coming from every direction. When he was on the island, they were coming from every direction. And he's like, "This is you right now." I said, "That's how I feel, except I'm not alone. We have a whole lot of people." But like I told him, bring it. You throw the hoops up, and we will jump through them. You are not going to deny us, and we are going to get these signatures, and we're going to stop this legislation. And it is going to be a blow and a black eye to this governor, and she can stick being vice president in her butt.
That is her goal. It is so obvious. She is not hiding that at all. But in the meantime, she is really just railroading Arkansans in that process. Just the amount of asinine bills that went through this last session. My head is still reeling and trying to like grasp all of it and what all of it will mean going forward. But this Learns Act is going to impact so many people.
Well, I want to give an example. I'm also a named plaintiff, and Capes is a named plaintiff on a lawsuit. That's what went to the Supreme Court. Marvel Elaine School District is according to the standards they're going to use for a school takeover failing. And for those that are out of the state, I want to explain how this part of this Learns Act works. They have what's called transformation contracts. And if a school is deemed in financial distress, or if a school has a D or failing on their system of scoring, then they can be taken over by the state and put under what's called a transformational contract, where they open up a bid from local charter and private schools to take over that school. And when that takeover comes in, they get to take over the school. And Marvel Elaine, the way they wrote that contract was the school's staying in the same place. So they had a failing grade because the poverty and crime where the school is located affects the school's rating system. And the people in the school have zero that they can do about the poverty and crime in the short term around them. They were struggling financially. So it is the state's responsibility, according to our Constitution, to come in and fix that. The state of Arkansas, under our Constitution, is responsible for equitable education of all its public citizens. And we had a lawsuit in 2003 that forced the state to come in and take care of these schools. And this is a way for the state to identify failing schools and literally sell them off so they don't have to deal with them anymore. It is literally that. And there was a company called Freedom Education Foundation that they awarded this transformation contract to, who only had like one high school in its system that had like 25 kids, and it has like a C or a D. I think it's a D in its own school. Yet we're going to let this school, we're going to give them $200,000 a year plus all of the funding that normally would have come into that school just to administer a school. The building's not moving, the crime isn't changing, the poverty isn't changing, except now the Freedom Education Foundation does not have to have any of the standards they don't have to have the minimum teacher pay. They don't have to have the teaching standards. So I want to know how a inferior school system to our giant public school system that doesn't have regulations, that doesn't have a parent oversight, who doesn't have experience in that community, is going to somehow miraculously come into that and pay their teachers less, the same teachers, and improve the education. This is not about improving the education of Arkansas. This is about corporate takeover of our public education system and proving her agenda to the nation that she can make crazy, radical, right moves that this 25% base in our voting population wants to take over and put moral righteousness and what they think that their church should do on all of the citizens, and they're wrong. And we have got to start standing up at every opportunity and punching them in the face and making sure that, not literally punching them in the face, but politically punching them in the face, holding them accountable, and not laying back. Our citizens are laying back, and now it is time to wake the giant up. I see Ohio with a hand up.
Hello, Ray. Good morning.
Good morning, guys and girls. How are you? How's everyone doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So there is new legislation in Ohio being worked on. It's out of committee now, and very similar to that going through in Arkansas. Two bills. Senate Bill 100 is the 7,700-page budget bill, and Senate Bill 83 is the education overhaul bill. These bills are creating school vouchers, so giving parents the decisions on whether or not to send their kids to private school or public school, and then giving them a tax credit. So people that don't have private schools near them, they're going to get less of a tax credit than those going to private schools. So they're going to be penalized. And I think that something like that should actually be put up to a vote, instead of our legislators just assigning that, because I can guarantee you that everyone will be saying no. If public school was good for us, then public school is good for everyone. At least that's my opinion. Instead of originally, the agreed upon was raising teachers' minimum salary to $40,000, which is absolutely ridiculous. That teachers' minimum salary is $40,000. That's what they wanted to raise it at. Republicans have decided to cancel that and leave it at $30,000 minimum salary a year in the bill. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. So $30,000, a bill to create school vouchers, and to top it all off, the governor's office will be appointing a person to head the Department of Education.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's very similar to what we're seeing. The numbers are different, but that's pretty much the same thing that's going on here in Arkansas.
Well, actually, Callie, the numbers aren't different. So, Ray, this is a nationwide thing. This is during COVID. This is a planned attack of takeover across the country, and ours was, they wanted 40,000 in Arkansas as a minimum also. That is what they were going to present. But before they could get their bill out, the Democrats put a bill out there for 50,000, and we made a gigantic statewide push. Teachers were protesting at the Capitol. They wouldn't let that bill out of committee. So it kind of pushed them in a corner. They had to, like, in the last minute, changed their minimum to from 40 to 50. Well, the problem is they didn't have a funding mechanism across the state for that. So there's literally they moved a minimum to 50,000, which is still ridiculous, because if you do the math and you have $1,000 mortgage, you cannot make your bills work on 50,000, and that is crazy.
Exactly.
And so what they did was they put this unfunded mandate in, and after 2 years, which they had like some money set aside, there is no money. And then they're saying it's up to the individual school districts to make that up. Well, if you live in Rosebud School District, Arkansas, and the whole population is 482, and it is an absolute direly poor town, you can't afford a $15,000 raise for every teacher in your building as a minimum. Well, when they put the raise in, they also did away with a step schedule. So then it is all that they're saying is every school district has to give their teacher $50,000. So you can have teachers that are there for 20 years and still the only guarantee is $50,000. Tenure doesn't matter. Experience doesn't matter. You can have a doctorate and 19 years experience. And if you were in a school district that had less than 50,000 people or $50,000 salary, you got maybe bumped to $50 and you're at 50,000, and a teacher coming out of college is making the exact same thing sitting next to you, and neither one of you are going to get a raise for 10 years. That is how they wrote this. It is all to pull the wool over their eyes. So if you're interested, Ray, call me, because y'all need to start organizing now, because I'll guarantee you the Ohio Constitution has a way for you to repeal this as citizens, and y'all need to start organizing now.
Yeah, I definitely think so. It's probably going to be under the referendum process, which is what we're having challenged in August special election, because they want to raise the I'm sorry, the minimum
the minimum standard.
Exactly. From 50.
They did that here too. They raised our threshold intentionally. It's all part of the plan.
Exactly. From 50% plus 1 to 60%, and then change the exactly. Yep. Thank you. I appreciate it.
They are all doing it. They literally have a mapped plan, and they're taking these bills and putting them in all of the red states, because their plan is to call a constitutional convention and overturn our entire U.S. Constitution. Y'all need to be aware this is happening. They are going to take the 34 red states and try to split the Constitution. They have this Joshua new generation that the ultra-right homeschool people have put their kids through, and it is literally to take over the government. And Sarah Huckabee is part of that cult.
So real quick, Audra, and I'll get to you in just a second. I did see, I'm sure everybody in here did see that documentary, that docuseries, Shiny Happy People. And that was the first time I'd heard about the Joshua generation. And I went down a rabbit hole with that. That was extremely interesting. I do want to talk really quick about the getting rid. The AG is wanting to get rid of the school integration programs in, and Jenny corrected me, I said it wrong, El Dorado and Hope and Lafayette counties. And that to me, when I read that article, was mind blowing, and just my stomach just sank. In order to implement the LEARNS Act, they need to do away with these programs so that those counties can implement school choice that was implemented statewide in other counties in 2013. What can we do there?
God, I'll open it up. It looks like Oklahoma was asking, want to ask a question or something, but here's the one thing I want to point out about El Dorado. They have had one of the coolest, it's called the El Dorado Promise, and Murphy Oil, I'm pretty sure it was Murphy Oil, created a foundation to where every kid that goes through a public school system, or through the public school system, and they're there a certain number of years and graduate, every one of them have money to go to a public university. It's set aside for them. And they give these kids backpacks with the promise written on it, with the expectation that they're going to get through school, and we promise to pay for your college. They're doing innovative things there that we need to be doing everywhere. And it's making me angry that we have an administration that wants to tear that down. And we can't do great things for our kids if with these education accounts, so we got to do away with the good stuff. It's ridiculous.
It is. It is. Go ahead, Audra.
I don't really know if I have a question as much as a comment. We're seeing a lot of what is happening at the K through 12 level also happening with higher education, the defunding, the privatization, the corporatization. It just, if you look at what the GOP is all about, it's about gutting like government funding and anything that remotely smells of equity, gutting that and giving the, the jobs or the work to corporations, to private companies, both because it'll make those people money, but also because then they can, also have control over like curriculum. They can, decide you can't teach about, the true history of the United States and racial injustice. You don't have to, talk about transgender or LGBTQIA plus communities. So it's all like there's a funding issue, which is a huge problem because ever since, the 70s and 80s, we've just been progressively gutting social safety nets and, public education funding from K through 12 to higher ed. And then we're seeing this added aspect of like, if the government can't censor, if that's still prevented from the Constitution, by the Constitution, then we'll have to make sure that the private companies own this because then they can censor. So it's like this very concerted effort that is really scary. And as you said, I think, one of the things people need to recognize is that this is happening and it's not a phase. It's not something that's just a coincidence. It's like an organized plan. And if people don't wake up now, we're going to wind up in this really much more dystopian country than, anyone would hope.
I think the word is coordinated.
Yeah.
You're right. This is very coordinated. And when you take what they're doing on our education system, and then they're trying to defund our libraries, they're attacking our school boards. It is a very coordinated campaign to push moral righteousness of Christian white nationalism on the public. And we have got to stand up and stop it.
Well, they did defund Craighead County's library. And I'm going to be talking with Saline County, the Saline County Library Alliance soon about what is going on there because they are headed right down that same path.
I see Monica's here. Crawford
Monica's
County's under
here.
attack.
Yes,
Yep.
and we're going to have a space with Crawford County, Craighead County, and Saline County to talk about the attacks on their libraries because they're taking that same plan and implementing it across the state. And we're being attacked on both fronts, libraries and with the education. Good morning, Jerry. How are you?
I'm dropping things. I'm doing well, and I absolutely agree with everything you've been saying. Is amazing. I just wanted to add. I've been following you guys with everything every morning. I think it's wonderful. My expertise, I'm in the mortgage business, and I know I only raised my hand because I know that was mentioned real briefly. Been in the mortgage business over 30 years, so kind of showing my age. But my specialty, I am a trainer, mortgage underwriting trainer, and I have certification with both VA and FHA. I'm actually specialized with more VA. So if there's ever a need for any involvement with questions or, regarding any of that portion within your involvements, I'm happy to be able to help answer or get involved with questions for any of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry. Yeah.
before we go too much further, Callie, and I won't give a lot of detail,
Mhm.
but I want everybody that is listening to this, because we are talking about the doom and gloom of how this MAGA right, Mothers for Liberty, Reform Alliance coalition has got a coordinated, organized campaign. We do too.
Yes.
We're organizing. We're like, I'm part of a group that is meeting almost weekly that has representatives from about 25 different non-MAGA organizations. And I mean, some are like independents, moderates, left-leaning Republicans. It is a group of leaders that is putting together a way to flip, to break this supermajority and to flip some of these actions that our legislature and governor is putting in place. And we're going to beat them, guys. We are going to beat them. The morality, civility, civics, and the Constitution is on our side.
I love that. And it's very much needed.
And we shut them down. I'm in New Jersey. Our local township elections. Our areas shut them all down in the last elections.
That's
That's
awesome.
all. That's awesome, Jerry. And we plan to do the same. If anyone wants to have some fun, Alexa Hennings is the communication director for our governor. Go follow her on Twitter, and you'll get an idea that every single move that the governor makes, we have citizens that have risen up and are holding her accountable. It is crazy when I see what's coming out of the communication department to see that it looks like they are spending 75% of their time fighting us. I don't know what else they're doing besides fighting us, because that is all they're talking about. They are now doing these town halls to sell their LEARNS Act that's already been passed. Why are they trying to do a town hall to sell the LEARNS Act to the public now? Because they know we are beating them. We're going to keep doing it. And we've got some people, Trevor McGar does not let them post things that aren't true without just coming at them. And we've got like Monica and over in Crawford County that's getting them going, and Robin and Fort Smith that's getting them going. Like, we are getting there, guys, and we got to keep doing it. We just got to keep encouraging people. We got to keep sharing the stories of our success. We have to show people that one person can make a difference, because if you can give a person a way and show them that you can make a difference, and then show them and give them motivation by, here's somebody that's doing it, go do it too. We will just keep getting stronger. We will keep getting better, and we will keep organizing in small, local, hyper-local areas and taking over those local areas. And that's how we're going to flip this state back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've said it a million times, and I hate giving them credit for this. The LEARNS Act was probably the best thing for us. It's a horrible, horrible bill. It should have been broken up into several smaller bills, but it really showed a lot of people what they are about, and it opened a lot of eyes, and it pissed off a lot of people, people that voted for Sarah. I was out at the Lonoke County Cabot Strawberry Fest, and Lonoke County Dems had a booth, and we were talking to people, and talking about the LEARNS Act, and people that voted for Sarah are angry about this. They don't like it. So it has worked out in our favor. It has opened a lot of eyes to what we need to be doing, and that's putting the power back into the people's hands.
Regnant populace. Guys, the
Yes.
people rule. And I know we've got a lot of speakers, but I will say this. I'm going to make a very, very bold prediction today. Sarah Huckabee Sanders will be a one-term governor.
Absolutely.
We have already started fighting against her. We've got 3.5 years to build momentum. She will not win in the next election.
She won't. She won't. And we did have David Pepper on. He had to jump on a plane. So he did send a message and said he had to go. He wanted to jump in. Ray had him on Coffee with Democrats in Ohio on Wednesday, and that was a great conversation. David's very interested in helping us here in Arkansas, and we're working to get him here for an event to come speak. And we would definitely love his help with anything that he can help with.
Perfect. Who else want?
Good morning, Monica. How are you, Monica?
Oh, sorry, there it is. I'm fine. I am not perfect with using this, so sorry. I was just going to say, kind of complimenting some of the things Steve said. I know it took a couple years in a lawsuit, but you can see when the legislation tried to mess with the citizens voting for the marijuana, medical marijuana passage, and they screwed around and changed, voted in all these different changes. So we just heard that those things were overturned and found to be illegal. So I know that wasn't under our current governor's term, but some of the same legislators are still there. So, these efforts can be successful. They do take time. We don't have time this time with the education, but, it works when we're focused.
It does. And I think that is what we just have to do. We have to focus. We have to get our teachers back behind us. Like, the teachers forever have been the biggest voting bloc that we could count on as Democrats. And I don't know if the teachers just feel like the Democrats abandoned them, but they've just not been voting as a bloc in the last several Arkansas elections for the Democrats. I think that's changed. I think that it's very obvious under this administration who is for the teachers and who is against the teachers. And that is going to make a huge difference in the next election.
Definitely. I think after session ended, a lot of school districts, went back and they started working their numbers, and we saw a lot of information coming out from each district about the pay scales. And I'm in a couple groups on Facebook for educators and for education, and seeing the reactions was sad. It was sad. It was sad. Ray was talking about the teacher's pay there being 30,000. Who can live on that? Who can live on that? I don't.
Do you know that if you make $15 an hour, which is the starting pay for a McDonald's fry cook, added up, if you get 40 hours, it's about $29,000 a year. And that fry cook that's 16 as their first job could make as much as a teacher with a degree and a certification tasked with teaching our children? Come on. Come on.
It is. It's sad. We are showing that we do not respect our educators with that alone.
I don't care if it's a government. I don't care if it's a business. I don't care if it's a family. How you make your budget shows what your priority is. And it's time we stand up and make our budget where we pay our teachers what we pay our doctors. Find the money. For 4 straight years in the state of Arkansas, 4 straight years, we have had over $1 billion surplus. Over $1 billion that we took in taxes that we did not spend in taxes. So we could have put over $5 billion into the education school system in the last 4 years alone. But instead, every bit of that was used to make future tax breaks for the top 7% of the earners in the state. The people of this state do not care about public education. You would put your money behind it. In Mountain Home, they have a school that is literally falling in. Mountain Home is one of the most beautiful, progressive, not progressive politically, but I mean, they are moving forward. They're growing. They've got hospitals, and they wouldn't even pass a millage in that town to save their public school system. We need to start putting our money where our mouth is. We can spend $500 million to build a new prison.
That, yeah, I could. We need to have a space on that. Um, I don't think that we have talked about that enough. The prison, um, the prisons that they want to build. Um,
I mean, if you want to make education better, change this grading system. Make a
yes,
grading system for students or for that actually can figure out how, if that school has got the teachers doing what they need to do. Change the way we fund our school system. It is the most ignorant, old, antiquated, not working system to have the landowners as the responsibility for the public school system. The percentage of people that go to public school that are not landowners is astronomical. That is not the way to pay for a school system, because if you're in a poor community, you can't raise the tax money that way. But if you're in a wealthy gated community, you get to have the best public school system. It's not equitable. The rich keep getting richer, they get better education for the kids, and the poor get poor, and that's who they want to put in the $15 hour jobs and who they want to put in the prisons. It's a haves and haves not.
absolutely, absolutely. We did bring up a new speaker, louder than most. Good morning,
Good morning. My name is Jamie. I'm loud.
hi, Amy. We like
Jamie
loud.
Oh,
with a
this
J.
is Jamie, ain't it,
Jamie.
Jamie?
This is Jamie.
Hey, Jamie.
The things that frustrate me the most is how misled and willfully ignorant the public chooses to be. With the LEARNS Act, as a parent and as a teacher, people should be really upset that banks stand to profit 5% of voucher money. Banks are going to be rewarded from taxpayer dollars. Can't tell me that's grifting. That is grifting. They talk about, 12 weeks paid maternity leave. That's only if the district pays for half of it. And that's not going to happen in most districts with an underfunded mandate. Additionally, one of the good pieces in that 145-page omnibus bill is the implementation of the science of reading. However, that was almost directly plagiarized from the Arkansas Right to Read Act. Joyce Elliott and a group of dyslexia advocates worked to get that passed. They started in 2017 and went into full implementation in 2022. And I would like to have more faith, the more that we talk to people and can show them these things that aren't right, that they would start being more active. And that's my big appeal. The science of reading, like I said, just really was fully implemented across the state starting in 2022. All the teachers are trained. In Mississippi, since they implemented this a few years ago, they are now starting to see improvement. Now, because we started it with kids who are now first graders, if LEARNS goes into law, in effect, this starting school year, those kids going into third grade that may be held back haven't had the benefit of the full instruction of those 4 years, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade. So it's a system definitely set up for failure. And that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, you're right. Jamie, I'll add to that. The Fair Teacher Dismissal Act, that they can just fire teachers for no reason now.
Oh, yes,
under
that
this
hurts my
act.
feelings. That hurts my feelings greatly because I am a loudmouth, but I have an outstanding record in increasing reading growth on the high school level. And that's really tricky and difficult to do, especially post COVID when kids and families are very apathetic about standardized test scores. And they're not, motivated. It has no purpose to them, they feel. So they just click through. And I understand, but it is frustrating because the politicians use it. But to give you an example, my reading growth was so substantial in 2019, 2020 that January of 2020, the Department of Education had me come speak about what I was doing that was successful because my growth on the winter NWEA was so high. So we had things that were working. They just hit this transition spot where they still have numbers that they can use to make us look like failures.
Oh, I will add to that, Jamie. And there are other programs that they're saying the Learns Act creates, like the tutoring for the kids and stuff. We had those programs in place already, and now they're making the public think that the Learns Act is what creates some of this stuff. It's all gaslighting. They want to put out there and make the public think this is great in order to push the things to defund education. And we've got to stand up. We have got to get these signatures. You've got to tell everybody that will listen to you to find somewhere to sign. And over the next week or so, it's going to be a little more difficult. We're trying to get these petitions in all of our canvassers' hands, but that will get better as we get close, as we move on through this. Y'all, we've got to pull together. We've got to pull together.
We definitely will. I think that one thing we've seen just in the last few months is when things get hard, people step up and we pull together and we get it done. We were able to put capes together and look at all that has been done in just the last few weeks with that. Um, People are ready across the state. People are ready. They're excited. They want to sign this petition. I did put some links in the chat of some events that Capes has coming up this weekend where you can sign across the state: Hot Springs, Little Rock, um, Stone County there. And then, of course, sayno2learns.org. Definitely check in with them there. There's a link also for the Facebook page so you can keep up with events. Follow the Capes account here on Twitter so that you can stay up to date with new information. But share it with everybody, please. Get the word out. Talk to your friends, talk to your family about the Learns Act, and see where they stand. Give them the information, give them the bill, and have them read it themselves and make their own decision on whether they want it implemented or not. But what CAPES is trying to do is they want it on the ballot. They want Arkansans to decide for themselves whether or not they want this implemented. If we are going to have a complete overhaul of our education system, we absolutely should have a say in that. Not some legislators that sit in an office there in Little Rock. It should be us.
Absolutely, because they didn't even ask the superintendents or teachers about this. Before we leave, and it's getting real close, I do want to point out, we had a couple of the members of our organization put together a survey, and they got it out to all of the superintendents across the state. And they did it as an anonymous, and they had a double blind anonymous system, all kinds of stuff, whatever they needed to do, to where these superintendents could speak freely, because right now they can't. They can't openly speak freely without fear of retribution. So we did a survey, and what we found was not surprising to us, but it was surprising that they actually wrote it down on paper. And like one of them that jumps out that I can think of out of my mind was, we asked, because the superintendents are making their budgets right now, do you feel like there's going to be funding after 2 years for this Learns Act? And we had a 38% return. 38% of all the superintendents we sent this to sent it back, which is a gigantic return in the polling survey world. It says that we have an accurate assessment of what the overall is. And there were only 4, like 1, 2, 3, 4, FOUR, 4% of the superintendents that thought that there was going to be money for this 2 years from now. Let that stat sink in. The people making the budget says they are not going to have the money to do this in 2 years. What's going to happen? What's going to happen to these poor rural schools? And in my situation, the Rosebud School District isn't just our school system. It is the largest employer in our district. I mean, by a long shot, by 100 times, it's the largest employer in our school district. So you're not only going to take the education system out of Rosebud and bus them 20 miles up the road which means it's going to be 45 minutes or an hour for people that are on the other side of the school. And then all of those employees go away, which means people move out of Rosebud, which means 10 years from now, Rosebud doesn't exist. And if you go across the state of Arkansas under the last Huckabee administration and find the schools that were consolidated under the last Huckabee, you will find towns that don't exist anymore. They're done. They're gone. And that is exactly what's going to happen to multiple towns across this state if we do not stand up and stop this radical legislation. I'm telling you, if we don't do it, that is what's going to happen. So please, please, please spread the word.
Well, it definitely seems to me like it's a family business, and she's just trying to finish what her dad started years ago. Um, what can we expect going forward from Capes?
Well, you can expect what we have is you can expect us to do heavy, heavy, heavy volunteer recruiting. If you'll go to sayno2learns.org, there is a place to sign up. We need people to volunteer because we need about 1,000 people on the ground over the next 50 days. So you can expect us to be recruiting. You can expect us to have events in every county every week where you can come sign. We are getting organized more than I've ever seen a volunteer group organized. So expect to have places to sign. You can expect to see us at events all over the state. If you have concerts, be there. Please support them. Go up and thank them if you've already signed. You can expect to see us on social media. We are not going to back down. We are going to keep pointing out the lies and disinformation that's put out of our governor's office. And we are going to make sure the citizens of Arkansas are educated on what this bill really is. You can expect another bill to be put on the ballot that does even more. We are going to make education equitable for the citizens of Arkansas, and we want the citizens of Arkansas to make this choice, not a radical legislature that's not supported by a majority of its citizens. So expect to see Capes a lot, and expect to see us overturn this bill and get on the ballot. That will also put the Learns Act in abeyance. If we get these signatures by July 31st, it pauses the legislation until November 2024, which means it actually will pause it until fall of 2025 because contracts will already be written by November 2024. So if we can, in the next 50 days, pause this, it will at least give us over 2 years to come up with a plan and to get people behind this and to come up with a way to make public education in Arkansas a world-class operation.
I love it. And that's what we need. I think all of us here probably agree that we would love to see education in Arkansas revamped. It needs to be. We are at the bottom nationwide. I want better for my children. I want better for my neighbors' children. But this isn't the way, in my opinion, to go about it. And again, if we want to do an overhaul of our education system, it requires all of us coming to the table and making our voices heard and talking about what we would like to see and how we can make that happen. And this is the way to do it. Pausing the Learns Act by signing this petition and going back to the drawing board and coming up with something that works for everybody in every county throughout the state. I put something up in the nest from Robin, the events page on sayno2learns.org. And he said, if there's a form on the website to request a Capes event in your neighborhood. So if you're having an event, if you know of an event and you want to have Capes volunteers there to have people sign the petition, please go out and fill out that form.
You know, the last thing I want to say is we have two major systems that we are working on in the state, or that the government is working on in the state of Arkansas. One of them, we're trying to fund and put more people in and throw as much money as we can. The other, we're trying to spend the least amount we can and get rid of the responsibility for it and send people away. One should be spending money on the education system and trying to get more people into our public education system, not the prison system. And the other, we need to be trying to get people out of and to find a way to get them out of the prisons. Like, our two systems are literally working exactly opposite of how they're supposed to work. And that is the difference between a Republican and a Democrat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They are just fueling that school to prison pipeline through this. And if we don't recreate this system and do away with the current system and recreate something that works for everybody and benefits our society, I don't want to see what Arkansas is going to look like in 20 years.
Well, one thing that we all need to start doing, they're doing better than us. They're doing one thing much, much better than us. And that is, they have a vision for what they want the country to be. They have a vision of what they want to live in 10 years from now. They have a vision of the laws that they want to pass to make a place where they want to live. Unfortunately, those people and their vision is about moral self-righteousness and judgment and ultra-white nationalism. We need to develop a vision and sell that vision to our side so our people can get behind the vision that we are selling. We can't just be against them. We need to create a vision of what we want this country to look like, and then we need to start selling that vision and getting people motivated to do what we think is the best thing for this country. And then they're going to stand up and get their neighborhoods sold on that vision and get their people working toward that vision. And that is how we beat the radical right and their misaligned, self-righteous, morally repugnant, push it down my throat government. We need to get our vision and sell it.
Absolutely. Totally agree. My vision does not encompass anything that they represent at all.
Well,
I'll
it
just say that.
definitely means equal and equitable rights for every citizen. I don't care who you love. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care what your bank account has in it. It is time that we are all treated with dignity and we're all treated equally and we all get the opportunity to have a say in what happens in our daily lives. And it's ridiculous that we have a party who all they want to do is take rights away from our citizens.
And that is exactly what it is.
I'm sorry, I'm worked up this morning, y'all.
I mean, how can you not be, though, right? How can you not be? They are, every single one of those bills were just chipping away at our rights. And it's hard to just sit back and not get pissed off and not get angry and upset and passionate about standing up against that.
Well, my vision for what this country looks like you said, is way different than their vision. And as angry as we are, I'm going to make them just as angry when we take control, because we are going to pass laws that make it where every citizen is treated equally and everyone has equal opportunities. And the reason they're against it is because they know that if they don't control the population, they lose all control. And we're going to take that control away from them.
Absolutely. What was that survey that not survey, but the study that came out that said by 2030, 2035, the demographics of the United States are going to look completely different. And I think that's why we're seeing this big push nationwide of them trying to take control and take all this power, because they know if they don't do it now, in the next few years, they won't have that power. They'll be in the minority. And they're deeply afraid that those that will be in power will do what they've done for
Oh yeah. Look at our youth.
years.
Look at our youth. Look at Dean McDonald and Micah and all of these these college and young Democrats across the state that are doing good work. And like, I would venture to say that 85% of the youth are on our side, and they know it. They know that the youth see through this bullshit. They know that the youth aren't going to stand up. They know the youth understand what loving each other past your differences is. They know it. They know it because their own kids are that way. They know it because their own churches are dwindling down to nothing, and their numbers are growing small because they're built on hate. They know it. So they're going to try to control us now. They're going to try to change the laws where we can't fix it in 10 years. They're going to take our rights away. They're going to take the rights to put referendums on the ballot away from us. We've got to stand up now before it's too late. They know that they have to control us now, or they don't have control in the future.
Absolutely. So we are going to close. We're at an hour, but I want to thank you so much, Steve, for coming. Just to wrap up, guys, in the chat, there are links to the events that Capes has and links to where you can find out about future events and request to have volunteers at your events in your local areas. Please share those. Please talk to your friends and talk to your family about the LEARNS Act. Ask them to read it and ask them to decide for themselves if this is something that they want in our state. We need this on the ballot. The
Hey,
people need to vote on this.
we also have a resource page on our website. I'll say it again, sayno2learns.org. We have a resource section, and it'll give you frequently asked questions. We can get you the information if you want it. We have a summarized breakdown of the bill. We have the pros and cons of the bill. We will make sure you know the true facts of what's in there and not the false things and propaganda that they're trying to push out through the media.
Absolutely. And also we have Ray here that spoke about the things that are going on there in Ohio. And August 1st, they have a special election. They're also seeing the same thing. The Ohio legislators want to change the constitution there and make it harder for citizens to put initiatives on the ballot. If you could, please follow Ray's account, Coffee with Dems Ohio. He posts awesome opportunities for all of us to go in and help Ohioans. We can text bank and phone bank to Ohio from Arkansas and help them get the word out. Again, we're in Arkansas, they're in Ohio, but these are attacks across the country, and we can help each other out. Thank you all so
Thanks,
much. Thank you,
Kelly.
Steve. Really appreciate having you. Next time I have you on, I think we should talk about the prisons. We definitely need to talk about the prisons. That bill.
Absolutely. Let's do it, because we need to fix that too.
Yes, definitely,
And
definitely.
there's all kinds of reform. We need our felons to understand how to get their rights back once they're out. The state
Absolutely.
hides that from them. We need to, there's a lot. Have a good day, everybody.
Absolutely.
Say no to LEARNS.
Thank you all for joining us this morning. Have a great weekend. Bye.